Hey everybody, this is Joe. Thank you for watching my Giga Texas construction update video.
Well, hey everybody, it's another Friday out here at Giga Texas, and as always there is a lot of activity, including some production. There's a few things I want to go over really quickly for the intro and then get into the video because I got a lot to show you in the actual video. First off, on the west side at that south interface between the original building and the extension, they are finally removing the glass and preparing to do that architectural tie-in that will join up the existing window line with the new window line. And I've been waiting for this for some time, and I'm kind of curious to see how they're going to do this so that it looks architecturally pleasing once it is completed. So that work is definitely underway. The next thing is they had a display of a couple of the new Model Ys over at the flagpoles. Now, one of them is the red one that I think that we have seen before, but there's actually a new one and it looks a lot darker than the Quicksilver. In fact, with this image, you can see this color of the new Model Y with a Quicksilver older Model Y in the background. So I don't know if this is black or a very dark gray, but it looks like this may be a new color that's coming to the Model Ys. The last thing that I just want to briefly touch on is the old Martin Marietta batch plant that is being decommissioned and disassembled. That work is really kicking into a new gear. It looks like they are trying to get that done very quickly, most likely because they have the replacement batch plant ready to go, and I know that Tesla wants to begin its construction of those new facilities. Some of them are going to be the Welcome Center, also some of the offices and the security, among other of the construction items that they want to put into this place. So anyway, you're going to see a lot of that work in the actual video. So without further ado, let's get into the video. Let's fly around and see what all is going on here at Giga Texas today. Have a great weekend, and thank you for your support.
If you would like to support my efforts, please consider using these links, which will be in the video description. If you are interested in Tesla products, you can help yourself and support me by using my referral code. Don't forget to hit the like and subscribe buttons on my YouTube video, as this helps as well. Thank you. My drones are ready and raring to go. Let's go flying over Giga Texas. Good morning here on the south side of the Colorado River. I'm dropping down to show you that there is activity where we expect to see another caisson installed, and then they will do that mini boring tunnel between this location and the one you see in the upper part of the screen underneath the Colorado River. You can see some of the forms on the right hand side getting ready for making that caisson, and the excavator where they're going to start doing that digging so they can begin that process of sinking the caisson down into the ground. Of course, this is part of a large water intercept system, and I did cover that on a previous video in depth, so you can go back on my YouTube channel and take a look at that if you want more information. But I'm going to fly back over the Colorado River, over River Road, and take a look at the current construction site of this west side caisson. What we are seeing is another ring is getting ready to be installed. You can see the rebar sticking up out of the top, and then it will sink even further. I do believe that this is getting very close to its ultimate depth of about 40 feet or 12 meters. So I think this may be the last of the rings that are constructed. But this is what it looks like right now. There is that cap on the inside getting ready to be picked up. They put that in there so that the workers can be safely working on the caisson and not fall, because it's quite deep underneath that location. And here's one more of those forms that will be moved over so that they can pour the concrete. Also, you can tell there's rebar on the ground getting ready for that last ring as well. So I'm going to bring the drone up, fly over the west warehouse on wheels, proceed over to this material staging yard. I wanted to see what is going on with all of the transformers, since we are seeing more movement of transformers a little farther to the north here. And also, I think it's going to be related in some ways to the construction we're seeing at the south end of the electrical switchyard. So as we fly over the steel corrugated pipes and some of the steel items on the ground, this is the grouping of transformers I was interested in. And I wanted to see if there had been any movement. There is the opening of the fence on the right-hand side of the screen, but it looks to me like these are still the same number as they have been, so that means that we are seeing new ones arrive on site, and I'll show you that momentarily. I also noticed a lot more steel has been delivered here. Some of it is white powder coated, and you can tell that versus the gray in the upper right-hand side of the screen. And I've also been noticing some of this being moved over to the east side of the factory and near the secondary and main entrance and being put up on a temporary platform. And I'll also show you that here later in the video. As I fly over the power lines and this particular material staging location that has all those equipment items waiting for installation, I wanted to take a look at the transformers that I had mentioned, and you can tell there is a new grouping on the upper center of the screen that was being delivered on my previous video. Looks like more of them have been delivered. This is a very large number of transformers that are on site here in the previous location and this one, plus what we're seeing being added here. There's now well over 110, it may be closer to 120 of these transformers on site, perhaps even more. So if you happen to have a good counting of that, let me know in the comments section. As we get to the outbound lot, what I'm looking at is the mix of the vehicles and whether or not we see any of the new Model Ys. And actually we don't. We just see the older Model Ys and a lot of Cybertrucks. So that production of both of those vehicles is well underway. What I am expecting is sometime next week that we're going to start seeing a lot more of the new Model Ys being produced, and we'll probably start seeing them in the outbound lot. And kind of exciting is that there are some customers with the new Model Y reservations being notified that they have had a VIN assigned and they can start doing some of the final paperwork with deliveries in March. So that's just a few weeks away. So we should see a lot more being produced. But in this grouping here, this is all of the current generation Model Ys, and it will be kind of interesting to see how they manage the flow of new versus old Model Ys through the production line and how that ramp and crossover will take place over the next several weeks to months. And again, here's some more of the older Model Ys kind of sequestered next to the track. And I'm not sure why they have them on that side of the site in that manner. But anyway, as I continue to fly around, I'm just trying to see if there are any more of those or any new Model Ys to be seen, and I really don't see any on this outbound lot right now. But this is a great look at just the number of Model Ys and Cybertrucks that have been produced. So production is starting to stabilize here at Giga Texas. And I also like this grouping of the Cybertrucks. I'll bring the drone down and give you a close-in view of this grouping. Not a lot of activity at the Cyber Tunnel today. It is a Friday, so that may be a part of the reason. But here's just a quick close-in view of what it appears like from this vantage point. Of course, that nice stainless steel overall covering is pretty much complete. The daytime running light is not working today. That may be because they're doing some additional work on the inside of the tunnel. I did notice a few of the Cybertrucks driving around the other side of the highway, but I don't think that they were on their way over here today. But as we fly along the road towards the end of line facility, wanted to show you what the superchargers look like with these canopies. It looks like maybe I don't know, 40% of it being used at this moment in time. And it looks like there is more of the grouping here on the left-hand side of the screen, again with the older Model Ys. Now, as we fly up over the end of line facility, this is interesting. We're starting to see long lines of Cybertrucks. You know, these have been moved over fairly recently. All the lights are flashing, so that's either a software update or they're just getting ready to move them into the end of line facility for processing. But this is kind of a new occurrence of this many of the Cybertrucks, so I wanted to make sure that you could definitely see what that looks like, and then they work here on the north end getting ready to go in for processing. So I'm going to cross over the highway and we'll resume on the other side where some pretty cool things are underway. I'll zoom in here and show you the load leveler systems are being installed now on these 3 new receiving doors, and a nice look inside where we see some of those tool chests, that plastic wall. And this is an area that used to be associated with where that ramp is, and Model Ys would be exiting the factory. That is all being renovated and reconfigured on the inside. Also, we got a chance to see a Cybercab very close and a LiDAR equipped Model Y plus the Chase Model 3 very close up, and my timing was very fortuitous. This is near that west main entrance. You can see the white tents on the side. They have these kind of moved around or strategically placed all around the factory and in the routes that the Cybercab uses for training. And they routinely just drive from one of these groupings of tents to the other, simulating passenger pickups and drop-offs, and then they continue that route, collecting more data. And also with the Model 3 behind it, they have a different sensor suite, and they're able to compare and make sure that the information that they're gathering from the Cybercabs is valid, and they can make sure that they are getting the right training data. But this is a great view as it comes closer to us, and then it continued on its way. And I will have a separate video that shows you more of that Cybercab routing. The other thing that I did notice next to the flagpoles is this grouping of vehicles. In fact, there are 2 new Model Ys being shown here. One is red, and we have seen that before. The other is a much darker gray. Now, I've had some people say that they think that this is stealth gray, and it's not a new color, but it is a color that is being put onto the Model Ys, at least being reintroduced at the very least. But I do like this view here with the roof, the glass. You also get a cameo of my drone and the reflections of the flags. And just overall, this is a good close-in view from a bird's eye perspective of what this new Model 3 looks like. Of course, it's in red, and then a good comparison with the Quicksilver Model 3 right next to it, so you can see how much darker this gray color is. So I'm going to proceed along the west side towards the south, and there is another big development that I want to show you today, and that's right next to this loading platform. Now, we have been seeing a lot of equipment being taken inside, some rebar, and there's a lot of reconfiguration work going on inside. But the big news here is that crews are preparing to kind of correct this architectural line between the old window line and the new window line that you can see on the right. As I zoom in, this is a nice view of the crews that have just removed almost all the glass in this location, and I expect to see some of the concrete panels removed, and then we'll see how they tie this together so it looks like it's all one original design and not just an add-in. Also a nice view of this opening and that black painted wall, and just basically the exit point that they have on this part of the factory. I'm going to continue to fly towards the south over the glass that's being stored in this location, and what this southwest corner appears like today. There is a big development on the south end that I want to show you, but first let's take a look at the last of the caissons that have been under construction. This one is at full depth. They've been removing all of the equipment, including the crane that we saw on the south side of the Colorado River, and they are also having this blue trailer that uses its capacity to make sure that they have any of the contaminated water that may be in this location so they can recycle it appropriately. But as I come back in, I'll give you a look straight down into the caisson, give you a good idea of how deep this is, and what it looks like all the way through down to the bottom. It does look like there's a concrete floor, so that has been poured already. So now we get to see how it all ties together. Now on the south end, a great view here of what is going on, and a big surprise. I thought there was going to be an asphalt roadway, but instead it looks like it's being seeded with grass. So we have kind of the gravel next to the windows, this grass line, and then we have 3 tiers of the grassed kind of berms that fill out this entire location. So kind of a surprise to me. I don't know what you think about this, but here's a good close-in view of what is going on here on the south end. As we wrap around the southeast corner, we see a crane getting ready for more operation. And as we get closer to the cooling plant, there is some work with the large plumbing pipes. And this is a nice, really close-in view of what is going on with some of the pipes that are being stored on the ground floor. As I turn back towards the factory, this is a nice close-in look at where the windows are going to be installed at some point here in the very near future to finish up this area. Also a nice look into the second floor, the mezzanine on the ground floor, and what this window line is going to look like once that is completed. As I climb up to a higher altitude, I'll turn back to the chiller plant, and we can see that there's only a couple of the fan units working today, but this is also a nice top-down view of how it appears with that plastic still on that ground floor as they do work on the inside. I'm going to pull away to give an overall view of this south end with the end-of-line facility in the background and that new grassed-in section on the south end next to the cyber pond. And then I'll bring the drone back down and take a look at the east side of the chiller plant with the earthwork and that drainage pipe and how this appears today. And as I continue to kind of pan along this side of the building, we can see a Cybercab doing its training on the bottom of the screen next to that white tent, kind of like we had talked about earlier. And then on the roof of the multi-level parking garage, we can see that there are several LiDAR-equipped Model Ys doing some additional mapping and training. And we have seen this work underway over the last several months, and sometimes they put out cones, and it looks like they are training it to operate within parking spaces. So maybe that's part of a new update that we're going to be getting with full self-driving at some point, and they're just validating how it operates within parking spaces. But here is a red and a white Model Y, both of which have the LiDAR on the roof, and it looks like maybe they're doing some sort of testing with that red one right now with the parking spaces. So anyway, nice to see that that continues. And of course, the privacy fences are on the ground floor still as they do more product development on the inside. As we fly over the sedimentation basin, or basically that pond, I wanted to get a quick view and update on this supercharger area with this tent. No real movement, no real changes, nothing that I can actually point to give you any ideas of what that is for, but I will continue to monitor that. In addition to that, these Cybertrucks are conducting a kind of a large-scale heating, ventilation, and air conditioning system test. And we know that because on my previous video, I got close enough to read the signs. What the purpose is of this, I am not 100% sure, but I know that Tesla is always looking to develop additional products and capabilities for their vehicles. So perhaps that is what they are trying to do. While I'm here, I did notice another big development. I mentioned it earlier in the video. So I'm going to go ahead and zoom in here, show you this loading platform, and you can tell steel items are being delivered here and then moved up into that floor. What this kind of indicates, at least to me, is that there's continued reconfiguration work, construction, adding of mezzanines and floors, plus adding additional production capability in this part of the factory. So, there is a lot of work going on behind the walls that we don't see, but that is all adding up for additional production capability and to be able to bring in new products. Here, as we get to the baghouse filtration plant, it's nice to look at how all that is coming together today. In addition to that, with the zoom in here, we can see the red kind of center post crane that is getting ready to be assembled and moved inside. Of course, some more of the items on the ground, some of which are related to the furnace loading system. You can see that big gray bucket on the left, and some additional items, some of which are painted white and red, that have been delivered and getting ready to be moved inside here as well. So a lot of activity continues on this east side of the casting machine structure. Now I'll bring the drone up higher, go over the power lines, and come back down. I wanted just to show you the progress with the cables going on the rack mounts along the parapet wall. We can see where the connections have not been made yet, and of course the opening of the doors for that new structure to have access to the roof. Crews continue to work on the cables along the parapet wall, and then here is where they go down in through the roof, and this will work its way through the building, through this section, and then as I kind of point down, you'll see the open vaults, and this is where that cable goes through the conduit, and then it will have the connections in this part of the vaults, and then this will work its way all the way to the north underneath the Tesla Road, and eventually over to the electrical switch yard. So all of this work seems to be coming along pretty quickly, although they need to get the switch yard and that south end section, which we're going to see here momentarily, completed, I think, before they can do the final connections. As I pull away, I wanted to show you where the casting, handling, and materials are located. Also, another Cybercab went by on its testing, but I don't see any castings here today with the exception of a few that are in the rack mounts. Looks like a lot of rack mounts are being put here, plus some equipment with those man lifts are being stored here. So I'm not sure if that's signaling some sort of change or if this is just in between some of their process changes, but definitely something to continue to watch. As we've crossed over Tesla Road and we're approaching up to the Megapack site, just wanted to see what is going on with some of these equipment items, the trailers and the contractor trailer. It does look like there's more items being delivered here over time. Of course, at the Megapacks, we have a spare transformer on the right, some additional electrical equipment, and I also wanted just to look at this so we can refresh in our minds what the Megapack site looks like, so when we get to the south end of the electrical switch yard, we can kind of compare that construction technique to what they did on the original Megapack. As I continue to fly to the north, looking back towards the east, this is a different look at this new batch plant, or at least the renovated one. I'll zoom in so you can see some closer views. But this shows you what they have been doing to prepare this for operations to allow the decommissioning of the old plant that is over by the die shop. And we can get a nice look at the systems. Those big tanks are also called, I believe, pigs. That's where the cement is stored. And of course, the materials up in the bins in the top part of the screen, the washout racks, and the pond with all that green water. And this is showing that at least some of that has been relocated from the old pond by the old batch plant, and perhaps some of it's also being used as testing for cleaning out of the concrete trucks to prevent the concrete from hardening inside the vehicle. As I bring the drone back down from the north looking to the south, I wanted to show you these washout locations. With the forms all gone, all the concrete has been poured. It looks like there is some water in at least one of these three bays, and the concrete at the bottom looks like it's got some parking locations being made. And of course, the filled pond, what that looks like here with that green water in it. And a nice look at all of the materials that are being stored here in these bins, ready for the production of more concrete to begin. So while we're here, I'm going to point back towards the south, fly over to the electrical switch yard, and we'll take a look at some of the things that are going on here today. And it is kind of nice to see just the amount of activity that is going on to finish up at least this part of the electrical switch yard. And most of the activity is here with the third transformer was installed. Much of the connections are being finalized. And then on the right-hand side of the screen, you can see those breaker bars are open on the right side. And that is showing that this is still de-energized, which is what I would expect. And you can see those in the upper right-hand side of the screen, how they swing together. Right now they are open. and a nice close-in view of the work for these connections. They've also been doing some work on the control trailers and the vault underneath, which they all are sitting on. In my previous video, they had some panels that had been removed as they were doing some electrical wiring. As I pan towards this south end clearing, and I'll zoom back out, there's a lot of details that we can take a look at. And as I mentioned, we looked at the old Megapack site, so this is a good comparison. It is very different. Now we see the conduit around the perimeters with some risers. This may be for lighting. We can also see the screw type piers with the plate caps and the beams that have been added in along the left and right side, 3 rows of these beams. Some additional excavation work that is underway. Plus, they are filling in many of these trenches on the right-hand side of the screen. So most of the trench work and conduit installation looks like it is nearing completion. Again, the work around the perimeter as well. As I pan around, this shows more of the earthwork just to the east of the site. And it has that's moving over towards the old batch plant that is being disassembled. So hopefully we're going to start seeing some electrical equipment moved here, perhaps the transformers we saw earlier in the video. And I'm looking forward to that so that we have a better idea where all that is going to be installed. As we come over to the old Martin Marietta batch plant, you can tell that there is just a frenzy of activity today. There's earthwork, there's concrete removal, there's steel superstructure and tank preparations for removal. They're also demolishing some of the washout bins that are remaining, and that's where that kind of that white material with that red and white breakup machine is underway right now. And we can see more of the concrete is just being ripped up and put into these trucks to be moved away. And also we can see the holes in the concrete. Those have been added in with the impactor just to break it up to make it easier. But the amount of concrete, the amount of work here that is being removed is just showing that it seems to be a priority, and they are definitely working pretty hard on this. So I'm going to fly around the rest of the site just to give you an idea of what it looks like and just the amount of activity that is underway to prepare this for construction. Nice view to not only see the Cybertruck supervising the work, but also how the grade is being lowered across this entire section to make it level with pretty much where the die shop is on the left-hand side of the screen. And this is a nice view to the south along this side of how this is continuing to transform. The rebar on the left is for that new reinforced slab on the inside of the die shop. And as I turn back around, this at this altitude gives you an idea of just how much of that berm and the grade is being lowered across this entire section. And I think this is going to continue all the way across this entire area. Now we do see that blue and white truck, which is another one of those soil testing rigs, and it looks like that is in operation, and they're doing that where the concrete used to be. So they'll probably end up doing that across this entire section so they can prepare for the new construction. The conveyor system is being dismantled. Some of those kind of hopper collectors have been removed on the left-hand side of the screen. The control room is still here. We do see work being done at the top of the tanks here to prepare for the demolition. And this is a nice bird's eye view of what this will look like. And of course, there's still more of the steel superstructure, some of the hoppers and the conveyor systems that need to be dismantled, and some of the tanks here at the bottom of the screen. But overall, this is a really nice look at one of the last original landmarks that is soon to be gone. As I pull away to the south, looking to the north, a nice overall view of what this site is looking like with the amount of activity. Of course, this is that lined pond that we mentioned earlier. And at the bottom of the screen, there are these 3 blue trailers. You can see the pumps and the pipes coming to it. They are draining out this pond, and they're going to be recycling and treating the water. That's what those blue containers are for. And then once it's completely drained, I expect the liner to be removed, and then this whole area will be smoothed over for that construction. So as we fly along the south end looking towards the die shop and the battery cathode plant, we do see the continued work here for the stormwater management system connections. And this is that trench box where some of the connections have just been made, and it looks like they are getting ready to fill in the trenches. So this work may be coming close to being completed. And perhaps once this is done, we'll see work resuming on the extension of Tesla Road, which will follow right here where the vehicular traffic is and continue all the way to this side and then tie into the complex of structures here to the right. So one last view on the east side of the battery cathode plant before we wrap up the video today. The crash test facility has been busy, and they have been doing a lot of crash testing of vehicles, including some of the new Model Ys. So that work is definitely ongoing. So that will bring to a close the look at Giga Texas on this Friday. I'll fly up to a higher altitude and pull away to reveal much of the site and hopefully put into context all of the things that we were able to see today. As always, thank you very much for watching and for your support. It means a lot to me and it helps me make these videos, and I do very much appreciate it. I hope you have a great weekend. Take care.